people say a story about a sacred flame. If this fire ever went out, Rome itself would fall. This was the flame of Vesta, goddess of the hearth, and the women who guarded it were the Vestal virgins. Ruins of the house of the Vestals with Palatine Hill, golden light. My name is Peter Greenfield. I stand in the Roman Forum as the evening sun turns the ancient stones to gold. The ruins of the Temple of Vesta are before me. Imagine the flicker of that eternal fire, a beacon against the twilight. The story says the flame represented Rome's life and the purity of its keepers. But what was the truth behind the myth? What was the real life of a Vestal virgin, a woman bound to a goddess and a city? Myths paint a grand picture of priestesses with near magical power. Reality was more complicated and more human. The flame was a powerful symbol. It linked every Roman home's hearth to the state's sacred center. Its continuous light promised stability and continuity. It promised divine favor. For the city to prosper, the fire had to burn. This was a heavy responsibility. It fell on the shoulders of a select few women. Their virginity was seen as untapped, pure energy, wholly dedicated to the state's well-being. A Vestal's body was not her own. It belonged to Rome. Peel back the layers of legend. Look for the real women who lived these lives. Stone, shadow, incense, chanting, thick air in the temple, the smell of olive oil burning, the scent of sacred mola salsa, salted ritual flour, the soft sweep of a broom on a marble floor, the crackle of the fire, the quiet murmur of ancient prayers. Not a life of heroic deeds every day, a life of routine, of precision, immense pressure hidden in quiet tasks. Step back in time, walk through these ruins as they were whole. Sun low, 29th October, long past. She is not a myth. She carries the weight of an empire in careful, steady hands. Not just a magical fire, the real human cost of keeping the fire, and a great city, alive. A story of duty, sacrifice, a unique kind of power. How did a girl become a Vestal? It was not a choice she made for herself. The journey began when she was very young, between 6 and 10 years old. The Pontifex Maximus, Rome's chief priest, would select them. He would take the girl by the hand
and say, "I take you."
This simple act severed her from her own family. She was now a daughter of the state. The requirements were strict. A girl had to be freeborn, a daughter of Roman citizens. Both her parents had to be alive. She had to be physically perfect with no blemishes or impediments. To be chosen was a great honor for her family, but it was the beginning of a long and demanding path for the child. Once chosen, the girl's life changed completely. Her hair was cut in a ritual style. She gave up childhood clothes for the simple white robes of a novice. She moved into the Atrium Vestae, the house of the Vestals, a grand building next to the temple. Here she would spend the next 30 years. The first 10 years were for learning. She was a student, taught by the older Vestals. She had to learn the complex rituals by heart. She learned the sacred duties, the prayers, the songs, and the precise way to manage the eternal flame. This was a rigorous education, focused entirely on her sacred role. Her daily tasks were repetitive and vital. The most important duty was to ensure the fire never, ever went out. The Vestals worked in shifts, watching it day and night. They fed it with specially chosen wood. They cleaned the temple meticulously, using water carried from a sacred spring. No piped water could touch Vesta's shrine. They also prepared the mola salsa, the mixture of coarse ground, toasted spelt flour and salt. This sacred substance was sprinkled on animal sacrifices and used in many state ceremonies. Their hands created a key ingredient for Rome's relationship with its gods. Every action was deliberate, every step part of a tradition centuries old. Life was structured and communal. The new girl would live alongside the other Vestals, young novices like herself, to the senior priestesses who were her teachers. Imagine a young girl, homesick and perhaps afraid, finding her place in this strange new family. She would learn to be quiet, to be observant, to move with grace. She would learn the weight of silence and the power of ritual. Her days were not her own. They were governed by the needs of the goddess and the rhythms of the religious calendar. She was being forged into something more than a woman. She was becoming a living symbol of Rome itself. The central rule of a Vestal's life was her vow of chastity. For 30 years, she was to remain a virgin. This was not just a moral rule, it was a matter of state security. Her purity was directly linked to the safety of Rome. If she broke this sacred vow, the consequences were the most severe imaginable. The Romans believed that a Vestal's impurity polluted the city and angered the gods. The punishment was designed to cleanse this pollution without technically shedding sacred blood. She would be condemned to be buried alive, escorted to an underground chamber, given a small amount of food and water and sealed inside, left to die in darkness. Her male partner would be publicly flogged to death. This terrifying punishment loomed over every Vestal's life. Even a lesser mistake, like letting the sacred flame go out, was a grave offense. A negligent Vestal would be taken to a dark room and whipped by the Pontifex Maximus. The rules were absolute, the stakes incredibly high. The constant pressure to be perfect must have been immense. They lived under a microscope, every action watched and judged. Their life was a delicate balance between being revered and being feared. One misstep could lead from honor to the most horrific of deaths. This was the dark side of their sacred duty, a constant reminder of the price of their position. Yet, for all the peril, the life of a Vestal virgin came with extraordinary privileges. Vestals were independent in a society where most women were under a father or husband's control. After their service, they could marry, though few did. During their service, they could own property, they could write a will, they could give evidence in court without taking an oath. They were trusted guardians. Important documents, like emperors' wills, were placed in their care. They held a unique position, outside normal constraints of Roman female life. Their status was visible everywhere. At public games, they had seats of honor. In the theatre, they had seats of honor. They sat in the front rows, a privilege usually reserved for senators and for other high officials. When they travelled in covered carriages, they had the right of way. A magistrate, even a consul, was expected to make way. If a condemned criminal crossed a Vestal's path, he could be pardoned. This shows the immense respect and sacred aura they commanded. They were women of power. They had influence. They enjoyed unparalleled public standing, living a life of stark contrasts, supreme honor, and the constant threat of a terrible death. The 30-year term of service was divided into 3 decades. 10 years as a student, 10 years as a practicing priestess, 10 years as a teacher for the next generation. After this long service, a Vestal was free to leave. She was given a pension and could return to private life. She was even permitted to marry. However, historical sources suggest that most chose not to. Immense status, independence, sacred duty, returning to the conventional life of a Roman matron under the authority of a husband may have seemed like a step down. Most chose to remain within the community of the Atrium Vestae, living out their days as respected elders. The Vestals their flame. They were a constant through the rise of the Republic, the grandeur of the Empire. Their end came with the rise of Christianity. In 391 AD, the Christian Emperor Theodosius III ordered the eternal flame to be extinguished. The cult of Vesta was disbanded, and the remaining Vestals were forced to leave their home. The fire that had burned for more than a millennium, the fire that was meant to keep Rome safe forever, was put out. The heart of the ancient city's spiritual life stopped beating. The story was over. Today, as I stand here in the Forum, the stones hold the memory of these women, ruins of their grand house, the foundations of their small round temple. We can look at the statues of senior Vestals that still line the courtyard of their home, their names and honors carved into the pedestals. These are not just artifacts. They are tangible links to real women who lived lives of extraordinary discipline and purpose. They were the keepers of Rome's soul. Myth reality, civic duty, personal sacrifice, immense honor, terrifying risk. What do we remember when we think of them now? The magical virgins, the story of being buried alive. But their true legacy is more complex. Power independence. They were symbols of stability in a city that was always changing. Their flame is long gone, but the story of the women who guarded it continues to fascinate us. It asks a timeless question. What is the price of keeping a sacred fire burning? Their memory still flickers, a small, resilient light in the long history of Rome.